clubs, and specifically off-road riding clubs. Barry from Cross Training Enduro and myself, Dallas, from the Traction E-Rag, we recently got together to have a long format discussion about clubs.
By the time a petition goes out and governments announce that this is closing, it's too late. Those decisions have been made, who knows, 6 months to a year earlier in some closed board meeting somewhere in some governmental department or organization.
It's a bit sad. I'm really glad that good work has happened in Canada. I don't know what it is about the national psyche that has allowed clubs to thrive in comparison to most other countries. Is it something about Canadians?
That's such a good question. I feel like this has less to do with Canadian culture than it has to do with suffering the consequences of riding areas being closed and then realizing that something needs to be done. Every jurisdiction that I've entered into has had a history of riding areas being shut down, and then clubs form and they get stronger and more organized, and they're ready to fight the next time. The other thing that I find that clubs are doing proactively is that clubs have realized that if you don't have a seat at the table in those meetings where those things get decided, you might as well forget about it. Because what I've learned is that at these tables that encompass trails in general, they just umbrella the word trails. And if you think about the users or user groups for trails, we have horseback riding, ATVs, snowmobiling, hikers, bird watchers, 4x4 trucks, dirt bikers. There's a whole group, there's a whole bunch of groups that use trails, and they all believe that those trails are their God-given right. So if you have a group of these users, except you're not at the table, you can imagine how that conversation, because everyone's grabbing for a piece of it, but if you're not at the table, you can forget, you're not even going to get crumbs.
Yeah. Look, it's an interesting point you make about needing a seat at the table, because there was certainly a group of Australians who could see what was going to happen in the future. That was DSMRA, Dual Sport Motorbike Riders Association. And they actually said, we need some kind of pinnacle body in Australia to have a seat at the table in these discussions. The funny thing is the organisation still exists, but all it does is organise rides. And I remember a few years ago even contacting them saying, look, I love your work, your ethos, your philosophy. What can we do to promote this? And somebody just emailed back and said, oh, well, that was back then. All we do is organise rides now. It's just that apathy, which I can't help feeling is a bit of an Australian trait. We love to whinge and complain, but do fuck all to actually fix any situation.